It is with incredible pleasure. I am delighted to introduce the wonderful Ashton Stewart, who is a program manager at MJHS. Ashton, besides being an all-around nice guy, is a member of the United States Navy, Operation Desert Shield, and an accredited veteran service officer. He's also a member of the New York City Veterans Advisory Board and Secretary for the New York State Veterans Home at St. Albans Board of Visitors. St. Albans is the nursing home my father is currently in hospice in. So I know he's in good hands with Ashton, part of the helm. Thank you, Ashton, for coming and being with us.
You bet. Thank you so very much, Janine and Michelle, Carrie, and Emily as well for inviting me to take part in this Transformation Tuesday program with the Great Panthers of New York City. It's an honor to be here and talk a little bit about the future of long-term care at the VA for veterans of all ages. And the tagline there is, does anyone care? And I'm sure everybody here does, otherwise you wouldn't be here. I am a veteran, as Janine said, and I've been an advocate in this space since 2018. I joined MJHS in 2022, and prior to that, I was program manager for Sage Vets, a New York State program for older LGBTQ plus veterans. And it's been quite a journey, helping out veterans, learning more along the way, and now being in healthcare, I continue to learn more and more. And it's just wonderful to meet other people that want to do their part to help veterans as well. Um, shall we go into the PowerPoint? And it would be awesome just to dig right in. There will be questions toward the end, but if you want to post anything in the chat along the way, please feel free to do so. This cover slide, just basically the top line there, We Honor Veterans is a national initiative that did begin with the VA in 2010, along with the National Hospice Palliative Care Organization, which is now merged into the National Alliance for Care at Home. The VA is not part of this anymore, but the program continues thanks to the leadership at the National Alliance. And it provides a lot of resources and information for people who do want to support veterans and their families. We are a level 5 provider at MJHS, so part of the requirements for that is mentoring. So we're definitely capable of sharing some of the trends and resources that we are discovering. And in 2023, we were proud to win the We Honor Veterans Outstanding Programming Award for our work. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is just a little bit more about the National Alliance. Just wait for the slide and click 2 more times because this is statistics and they pop up. Here we go. Okay, so the National Care of Alliance has cited that 2.4 million deaths in the United States occur each year. And of those deaths, 680,000 are veterans. The majority do not receive their care at the VA. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of barriers that we're going to get deeper into as we go through this presentation. And these barriers don't only affect veterans, they also affect their families and their caregivers. Caregivers sometimes are not family, as one would not always expect. Sometimes estrangement is a reality that we deal with supporting families of veterans or whoever is caring, neighbor, friend, whoever is able to care for the veteran. So the next slide, we're going to get into a little bit deeper here. We Honor Veterans does offer categorically different resources. And again, We Honor Veterans is something designed for aging veterans and hospice care. However, some of the resources that they do have available, particularly under the PTSD menu here, are very helpful for veterans working, advocates working for veterans in every space. So under the PTSD menu, it lies so many unspoken pieces of the military experience. And lately, there's been more studies done linking PTSD that's been exacerbated by dementia. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is a slide put together by the VA in 2022, with projections for 2023. It was found in today's Geriatric Medicine in August of 2024. And you can see here that the darker color is the prediction, and the one in the middle is particularly striking. They're showing that there's going to be as much as an 8.4% increase by 2033 of disease, the dementia disease alone, not even including other forms of Alzheimer's. What's really striking about this is that other data from the VA and various research resources has shown the number of veterans in the US that are enrolling in the VA is steadily declining, with projections showing a continual decrease of the veteran population enrolling in the VA over the next several decades. And that article goes on to state that veterans can have all of the same risk factors of dementia common in the general population. However, they're also vulnerable to several risk factors specifically related to military service. And those are traumatic brain injury, also known as TBI, and PTSD, and secondary conditions to PTSD, such as sleep disturbance and deprivation and heavy alcohol use. And then finally, that article also went on to say that most American veterans who are living with dementia served during the Vietnam War, in which only 12% of combat casualties were attributed to brain injuries. And by comparison, that contrasts to 23% of combat casualties among veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were traumatic brain injuries. So that's almost double. Stars and Stripes, which is a military journal, went deeper into this and said the cumulative effect of repeated low-level blast exposure can cause headaches, seizures, hallucinations, and increased risks of depression and suicide. Additionally, up to 20% of veterans who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001 have experienced PTSD. So what this is a call to action for all veteran advocates to be prepared for these things. If you do encounter a veteran that has symptoms of headaches and trouble sleeping and complaints about head pain, these could be related to traumatic brain injury. And a big reason for this is the weaponry that they're using currently in today's fighting. It's repeated blast exposure, and sometimes they're launching these weapons over and over again and getting the same exposure. And so brain injuries can cause dysfunction both in the heart and the gut. And when these symptoms go untreated, they can lead to depression and paranoia. And that is a greater concern for us. And this is what we want to curtail as soon as possible. Next slide, please. Okay, what can we do? You might be asking. Well, the first thing is to identify those who served. The worst question to ask is, are you a veteran? You ask, did you serve? And the reason for that is because a lot of people who did serve do not identify as veteran. There are many explanations for that. I don't want to digress too much, but basically it's due to trauma or because somebody told them they're not a veteran because they didn't serve in combat. A lot of women have been told they're not veterans because they're women. It's very chauvinistic. There's reasons that are all not good. But asking if somebody served is a much better way to get through to somebody that has served, and then carry on with these other questions. Where did you serve? Do you want to talk about your service at all? Are you getting care of the VA? Do you have a copy of your DD-214? These questions create a baseline for determining eligibility, which we're going to go deeper into this presentation. And the next slide is an example of the checklist that we use that was provided through the We Honor Veterans initiative. And as you can see here, it's the same list of questions. They're just organized a little differently and more cohesively. But this is so helpful for me and my colleagues. When somebody has completed one of these questionnaires, it's pinged in my electronic medical record. I can proceed from there, send out a letter, make a phone call, whatever I do to get in touch with that family to make sure that they're aware of veteran benefits that they may not know are available to them. If we go to the next slide, this is basically a list of the top of the underutilized resources that we see at MJHS. And at the top here, you can see HHA support, home health 8 hours for anybody on the call here that doesn't know HHA. You can get up to 16 hours per week through the VA if you're enrolled. There is an evaluation process by the care team. You can request that to be done on Video Connect if the veteran is non-ambulatory or can't leave home. But these are things that a lot of people just don't know about. And the PACT Act of 2022 expanded recognized conditions that are connected to one's service. Also DIC, which is known as Dependency Indemnity Compensation. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we go through it. And of course, burial benefits It's something that surprises a lot of people. Anybody with an honorable discharge is eligible for free burial in a national cemetery, and so is their spouse. They can be buried together. There's more information as we go through this. And then, of course, restoration of honor is a wonderful piece of legislation here in New York State that helps veterans overcome an other than honorable discharge that was determined to be unjust. And then they can have access to many veteran benefits offered by the state. And this includes anybody discharged for one of 3 mental health conditions, including PTSD, traumatic brain injury, also military sexual trauma, and sexual orientation and gender identity are covered here as well. What isn't listed on this slide that's equally important is to just sort of mentioning state veteran nursing homes. They are different than federal veteran nursing homes. Federal nursing homes are typically located in a medical health facility, whereas the state runs their own veteran nursing homes. And the one in Queens is on the same campus. It's right behind the VA at St. Albans. But just to give you the definition here, what makes them different, federal veteran nursing homes, also known as VA community living centers, are owned and operated directly by the VA, while state veteran nursing homes are owned and operated by state governments. The VA partners with state homes by providing federal per diem payments to help cover costs, and both types of facilities are subject to VA oversight to ensure quality standards are met. Federal homes often serve veterans with more complex medical needs, while state homes may have their own specific eligibility criteria and may admit non-veteran spouses or Gold Star families. And according to the Senior Veterans Alliance, a not-for-profit, state veterans homes are a joint venture between the state veteran departments and the Department of Veteran Affairs. Subsidies come from the state and VA and other sources, and most state homes and nursing homes for veterans, but some homes may also provide assisted living and other care. Every state has at least one veterans home. There are 5 here in New York. The highest state is Florida with 8, and there's a great demand for this type of housing. And most veterans in most states would qualify for this. Eligibility is for any veteran who served. They can pay out of pocket. It's a competitive rate if you're not service connected. If you are service connected, which means you have a disability rating from the VA of 70% or higher, your care at a state-run veterans nursing home is free. Spouses are eligible, but there's a caveat here. Most veteran nursing homes have to have at least 75 to 90% veterans before they have accommodations available for the spouse. The cost for some of our providers on the call today does vary, and it's the per diem rate. Let me see, it's lesser than the 2 amounts of half the daily cost of the veteran's care on a basic per diem rate. So hand that over to your fiscal department. And the other thing is Gold Star programs or Gold Star families are eligible for care in a state veteran nursing home in New York. Gold Star families are those who have lost a loved one and in the military. And in New York, we recognize that to be a loss during combat or because of a service-connected injury. Sometimes it varies. State veteran nursing homes generally all offer short and long-term care, end-of-life care, and palliative care. They're wound care experts, and they also have family councils and committees. So families of the loved one and the veteran can be involved with some of the inner workings of what's going on in the VA. I'm going to post a link to the National Association of State Veteran Homes, because this is where you would find the contact information for a veteran nursing home in your states. Just pop that in here. Okay. Next slide, please, Jenine. Thank you so much. Also, I'm going to post a link to a vet-to-vet cafe we did in 2023, and we invited state veteran nursing home reps from New York and California to give a coast-to-coast perspective, because it does differ greatly what is offered within the state veteran nursing homes. So it was a really nice way of getting a broad outlook on how it differs from coast to coast. So check that out if you get a chance. Presumptive conditions, look at this list. It's incredible. This is what came out in 2022 through the PACT Act, and is categorized by Vietnam veterans and Gulf War veterans. Take a look. do you know anybody who served in Vietnam or the Gulf Wars? Are any of these conditions something that you have discovered are applicable to that individual? If yes, then they need to get connected to a veteran service officer as soon as possible to get the care that they need and also the monetary benefits that go along with being a disabled rated veteran. If we go to the next slide, this gets into the real nuts and bolts of disability ratings currently. This is a very recent report, and it shows the financial impacts of the tax-free income that you get based on your disability rating. What isn't shown here is what you also get with that rating. If you get anything below 50%, you get free care for that condition that you have a disability rating for, in addition to getting these monthly payments. And if it's over 50%, you get free care for whatever condition the veteran is needing help with, and also free medicines. And also, sometimes veterans have more than one condition that will together amount to a higher rating. So 10% for ankle injury and 30% for PTSD, for instance, would make them 40%. So anything over 50% combined or singular disability would mean the free healthcare. 70% or higher means you get free care at a state veteran nursing home. You're also eligible for the caregiver support program. And I am going to put a link for that here in the chat as well. These slides will be available to you all at the conclusion of today's presentation. And caregiver support is really wonderful for veterans receiving home care. You can, if you're qualified or deemed eligible for the general caregiver support services, that's when you get monetary support in addition to people being able to answer your questions and providing resources. Otherwise, you can still get caregiver support even if you don't have a disability rating, but it's just basically being able to make a phone call and make inquiries. And sometimes that means a lot to the caregiver. Caregivers often don't know where to go sometimes and don't know how to treat a veteran, especially when they have dementia and they're exhibiting PTSD symptoms for the first time in their lives. That's when also the We Honor Veterans portal is wonderful. They have training videos to address PTSD and how to comfort the patient. And the final benefit I just want to talk about here is the 100% rating would also include dental. That's the only time you could ever get dental care at the VA without cost is if you're 100% service connected. So these are important to know, and these are the benefits that are eligible for vets. And as soon as you put in a claim, it's something known as an intent to file. You can put that in before the claim is finished to sort of lock in a date to when you are working on the claim. And you will get the veteran paid retroactively to that start date, to that intent to file date. I've seen cases turn around in a matter of a month or two, up to 7 years, and you get paid back to that first date. And that one that took several years went through several appeals, but the payouts can be anywhere from tens of thousands to that case, which was in 100,000 range, which of course made a big transition and a big impact on that veteran's life. There was a Washington Post article, I just want to flag this, earlier this month that highlighted a few bad actors in this space of making fraudulent VA claims. The report was criticized by many veteran groups. I found it very offensive. They only looked at one side of the story. These benefits are there because veterans were injured while they were serving, and the government is trying to make amends and support them and through these benefits. So it was unfortunate that this article focused exclusively on a handful of bad actors, but these benefits are available. The needs are great, and veterans and veteran advocates should be aware of how the system works for those veterans who do qualify for the support due to any harm upon them that they've experienced due to their military service. If we go to the next slide, please. Those with an other than honorable. This distinction is important because a lot of people think that other than honorable is a bad thing. It's essentially an administrative type of discharge. It means things didn't work out for whatever reason and they're ending their relationship. Punitive discharges are dishonorable and bad conduct. They are not the same thing as an other than honorable. OTH is what we call this. This is what is required for the restoration of honor, which we mentioned a minute ago. If we could go to the next slide. I just want to highlight this legislation. It's simply laid out here. The process to get this initiated is very simple. You basically just reach out to the State Department of Veteran Services and say, hey, you know, I was discharged. I don't believe it was justified. And a lot of veterans carry this with them. They haven't been able to talk about it because they carry shame. And it's good to start the conversation. It's good to let them know that this exists. And it's good to just try to initiate it because if they are approved, the outcome is tremendous. And just to let you know, there are 9 other states with similar legislation. New York was a leader in this role, and some of the states actually contacted New York legislators to find out how they could create their own. So there's New York has it, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maine, Illinois, Colorado, Oregon, Nevada, and California. And if you don't have it in the state that you're listening to from today, call your legislator. Next slide, please. Burial benefits. This is another thing, like I said earlier, this is something that a lot of people just don't know about. I've got some phone numbers here. A couple of them are national resources. So if you need something a little bit more local, we do have our veteran resource guide that we will share with you after this call too, that we put together. It's wonderful and it outlines most of what I'm talking about today. So service-connected death benefit is something that I list here near the top or in the middle, excuse me. And what this is when a veteran's death is attributed to a disability that they acquired in the line of duty. So if they have a disability rating for prostate cancer, and that is what leads to them being terminal and passing away, then you can apply for this benefit. It's about $2,000 of reimbursement for funeral expenses. And the other way to access this is if a veteran dies while receiving care at a VA medical center, state veteran nursing home, or a VA contracted nursing home. And again, if this is something that you would question, you would have to reach out to a veteran service officer to assist. We'll have information about how to reach them soon. Headstones and medallions, also a free service. I had somebody contact me once and their father was buried in a very remote cemetery with less than 200 graves, and they had been there for decades without any sort of medallion showing that he was a veteran. The granddaughter followed up. She got the medallion and was able to get it onto the tombstone. And she said, I just wish I would have known about this sooner. The only caveat here is the private cemetery has to permit the use of medallions, and I have yet to encounter a private cemetery that would say no. Something that was asked of me to also highlight is a disabled child of an eligible veteran can also be buried in a VA National Cemetery if they are permanently disabled and incapable of self-support before the age of 21 or 23 if they're a full-time student. And to qualify, the veteran has to support or provide supporting documents. And the veteran also has to meet specific eligibility criteria, such as having a non-dishonorable discharge. See, again, this is the VA language, a non-dishonorable discharge. So that does not exclude other than honorable. The other reason I just always like to highlight that classification of discharges because there are definitely times when veterans can still be eligible for benefits, even if somebody has told them they are not. The VA has changed a lot of policies to be able to work with veterans with an OTH discharge. They just want to know more about what happened and what led to that type of discharge. The last thing on this slide is the indigent burial reimbursement. This is a New York State benefit. Believe it or not, it's something you can access. We had a spouse of a veteran who had no family and no healthcare proxy. She told her MJHS social worker, I'm going to be buried with my husband who's buried at Calverton, and then she died. And we found out about this benefit. We were able to leverage it for her. It was the first time New York State had leveraged it for the surviving spouse who hadn't remarried of a veteran. She lost her husband in 1970 something and remained unmarried. And this only happened like 3 years ago. So getting them reunited was tremendous. And it was just because of this lesser known benefit that if there's a spouse or a veteran that's been down on their luck, we can avoid them going to Potter's Field because of this wonderful benefit. They can also have military honors, which is when they come and play taps, fold the American flag, have a full-on patriotic send-off. So it can mean a lot to that spirit. Next slide, please. I'm going to go a little bit into the dependency indemnity compensation. This is available for a spouse of a veteran who is rated at 100% service connected for more than 10 years. Or as I mentioned earlier, you can apply for this if the veteran died to a service-connected related injury. So this is in addition to the service-connected death benefit to go towards the burial. The DIC benefit equates to about $1,600 a month of tax-free income for the rest of the spouse's life. And if a veteran is 100% service-connected for a year or longer and was a prisoner of war, their spouse is also eligible. And believe it or not, we had the said situation, a World War II veteran, a Jewish man who was held prisoner of war for 90 days, discharged with a 20% service-connected disability rating, if you can believe that. And then when COVID hit, his dementia and stress made his PTSD surface. He went to the VA, they gave him 100% service rating, and he died within 2 years. But we were able to get the DIC for the surviving spouse. It was an incredible story and an incredible, I was surprised that this existed. But we've also filed a claim for DIC for a veteran who didn't serve in combat. He had prostate cancer, and it was due to exposure to chemicals on the base he served, which was also adjacent to a Superfund. It was a chemical plant that was shut down because it was so toxic. They approved him for 100% service connected, and we transferred for the benefit to the surviving child for this individual. It's a smaller payout. It is still DIC, but this benefit will continue until the child is 18, or if they enroll in college until they graduate. We also connected the family to Operation Baby, which is a program led by the State Department of Veteran Services and at one of the American Legion posts in Valhalla. And this will provide supplies for the baby, diapers and baby seats and things that the child needs and the family needs for the first 3 years of her life. So this is just another example to give you an idea of what is out there. If there's a need, get on the phone, call somebody. Next slide, please. Medical nexus letters. These can significantly help get a claim approved. Medical nexus letters can be written by clinicians. It doesn't have to be a doctor. It just has to be somebody that's been working with the veteran for a period of time to understand what conditions they have. And the language that is needed is the condition is at least as likely as not related to their military service. When it comes to the listing of injuries from the PACT Act that we looked at earlier, if a service member was in Vietnam and has one of those conditions, it is definitely at least as likely as not related to that service. You can confirm these things on a DD-214. It'll show where a veteran served, what medals they earned, which are important because they show you and confirm what war they were fighting in. A lot of people did serve during the Vietnam era, but didn't get the Vietnam medal because they weren't in combat. So these are things to look out for. This is explained more in the Veteran Resource Guide that we will be sharing with you later. And I'm just going to post a link here to another Vet to Vet Cafe that we did that featured information about medical nexus letters. Next slide, please. Okay, this is an example of a resource that was designed to help clinicians identify somebody who served. There are many out there, but something is usually missing. And in this case, there's a couple of things missing. It's well intended, but a lot of resources that are worked on and people spend a lot of time on them, they get overlooked. And there's a few reasons for it. Let's go to the next slide. This is good evidence of how it can be overlooked. In 2018, the New York Health Foundation sponsored a RAND study called Assessing the Capacity of New York State Healthcare Providers to Meet the Needs of Veterans. These data are from the study that determined that only 2.3% of healthcare providers in the state of New York meet all criteria to effectively serve the veteran population. There's 7 questions that you can see here as you scan to the right. The one at the very end is asking if they screen patients for military veteran affiliation. And this is where the statistic plummets to less than 3%. This study was inspired by this study inspired the New York State Department of Veterans Services to reach out to MJHS to see if we could collaborate with them to create a new military history pocket card to try to advance the goal of increasing military cultural competency of medical providers and overcoming barriers to care for individuals across the state of New York who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces. And I can't tell you how glad I am that we are finally launching this resource that we've been working on for over 2 years because of red tape and bureaucracy, just making sure everybody's got everything they need. We're launching this in a CME on the 13th of November. It's a 1-credit CME course. I'm going to put a link here in the chat. Please attend. Even if you don't want the credit, this is going to be a wonderful resource. It comes with an implementation guide. It's a 5x7 card that essentially asks 7 questions, leading with, did you did you serve? Tripping myself up here. Don't ask if you're a veteran. Okay. Just going to post this about multitasking. Okay, next slide, please. Slide 17. This is the New York. This is the MJHS We Honor Veterans model. You can see that we've got 5 points that we really focus on: the quality of care, our Vet to Vet Cafe, which is a quarterly program that is currently hybrid. We just want to bring information to the public and bring providers together, also bring veterans out and not only share history with them, but encourage them to share their history, because their history 9 times out of 10 is similar to somebody else who served. And hearing somebody share something that's similar to your own story is incredibly powerful and a great way to start getting help to that individual. Inclusivity, that's what it's all about. And also innovative technology, using things that are at our disposal, using online media, emailing things, connecting people any way we can, and being present. Always making sure that we listen and we're good listeners and that we're not trying to rush things. The next slide, please. This is a snapshot of what we were working on in 2024. You can see we had a very productive year. The shot on the bottom left is one of my favorites. We encountered a World War II veteran who is part of the Buffalo Soldiers and never got any recognition for it. So we were able to posthumously honor him. We got the family connected to the Buffalo Soldiers of West Point. They had a wonderful ceremony that they did for the family and made this wonderful plaque. We helped the family get the medals that he had earned. He had never received them. Just really neat stuff. We also had a powerful program honoring Native American veterans that we did at the Smithsonian in New York City. We had the Shinnecock Nation come, and they had the drum, and we had several nations represented. It was pretty awesome. I learned a lot doing that. And if we go to the next slide, proclamations, certificates, these things are out there and available to you. You just have to make a phone call. Our City Department of Veteran Services prepared this certificate of recognition. I asked if we could do something special for this individual. They said, tell us a little bit about his history. So I shared that, and they put this wonderful letter together signed by the Commissioner of the City Department, Commissioner James Hendon, which we presented to the veteran, and he was very moved. On the right, we get proclamations from the State Department of Veteran Services for Veterans Day and Vietnam Veterans Day, which we give to combat vets, depending on which conflict they served in. We'll do this in person as much as we can, but we definitely send them to all veterans who served in a conflict, and we get it to them through the mail, along with a letter that outlines a lot of the descriptions of benefits that we're discussing right here. If we could go to the next slide, please. Oh, just one other thing. I want to hesitate because we were assisting a World War II veteran who hadn't enrolled in the VA, and they wanted HHA in their home. So we did that. And during that process, we discovered that he was a Montfort Point Marine, which was one of the first African-American groups to enlist in the U.S. Marine Corps. It was during the Second World War, and we learned that the Montfort Point Marines have been awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. And so we connected the family to the National Montfort Point Marine Association Incorporated, who are planning a posthumous ceremony to present the family with the Congressional Gold Medal in his honor. And I was the one that was able to make the phone call to the daughter who it had been some months since he passed and since we connected. But she said, I think I'm going to faint. He would be so proud to know that he's going to be honored in this way. And I'm just so excited about this ceremony. This is the kind of history that we should all know about when we work with veterans because it's powerful stuff. And I don't know what went on in the household or how his service affected his family life, but if however it was shaped, this is like icing on the cake. To see this gold medal once they receive it and reflect on it and think of him being honored in that way, it's very healing. I mentioned earlier before this webinar started that caregivers are just, they're forgotten about all the time. And as an advocate for caregivers in the work that I do, one of the things I always ask them is like, how are you doing? Are you able to like take care of yourself? Are you able to make your appointments? Can you just take a walk around the block for 5 minutes once a day to clear your head and get some fresh air? Because they don't. They're so focused on caring for the one that they love that they neglect themselves. The bottom three points here are the most striking because coronary heart disease is a huge issue for the middle-aged to older caregivers. And even more shocking, 27% die before the person they're caring for, which is really high. So it's so important to be mindful of this when you're working with a caregiver or a veteran that needs a caregiver. One of the things I love about the HHA support from the VA is that they're aware of what the veterans' needs are. They're aware of what has shaped their experience as a veteran, so they know what to bring to the family to support. And it's wonderful. If we can go to the next slide, please. There is no way that we could do our program alone. And I feel that way about all support that's available for veterans. It's just too vast. There's so many things that I didn't address so far, like education benefits. I focus on the healthcare aspect, but only like a piece of it. There's just so many things out there. So if there's a need and a veteran has expressed it to you, collaboration is where you need to go. The local, state, and national level, there are so many different programs out there. The VA hospice and palliative care program is still there, even though they're not supporting the We Honor Veterans program anymore. They are still functioning. There's local vet centers. The one great thing about the local vet centers is that they don't care what type of discharge you have. If you need help with mental health support, they are there for you. And you can just walk in the door. They don't share your contact information with the VA. Sometimes that is a concern for a veteran. There's trust issues there. So that's just something to be aware of. And vet centers are throughout the country. They were something that was fought for by Vietnam veterans who have done so much for advocating for veterans. They were treated so badly, and they're like, this is never going to happen to another generation. And they stood by those words and they fought for legislation. They fought for the PACT Act. They are heroes. So I'm so grateful for all of their efforts. Veteran service agencies, that is more of a state thing. They're available in some of the more rural areas. The New York State and New York City Department of Veteran Services, for those on the call here that are in New York, please make sure that you are aware of them. And they both have veteran service officers that can help file a claim. Their contact information can be found just by Googling, easy Google. You can even establish a meeting or an appointment online through their portal. Their phone number will be in the MJHS Veteran Resource Guide, which you will all get. And of course, local, state, and federal local officials or elected officials are always up for supporting a veteran. The federally elected Congress or congressional reps are great if you are having trouble with the enrollment of the VA or with VA benefits or claims. because that is your side door into the federal government. I know that the federal government is shut down right now. None of us are happy about that. The only thing I've heard that is being affected is the timing of evaluating a new claim. I haven't experienced any difficulties thus far, knock on wood, and I hope that continues. But something to be mindful of, and hopefully the shutdown will end soon. So, the other thing I was asked to address today is about relocating a veteran from one VA to another. We have actually done that before, and it wasn't easy, even with the primary care doctor putting in a request to transfer the patient from one VA facility to the city, because it was easier for the caregiver. They didn't coordinate it very well. So we helped with that. I liaise, that's what I'm here for. But there is supposed to be somebody at the PACT team that can help with that. And there's also a traveling veteran coordinator. These are the people that you need to reach out to within the VA, whatever medical facility they're being transferred from and to, and help with the coordination because it's so easy to get the ball dropped. And just one other thing to flag, we were helping a woman Air Corps veteran who served in World War II. She just turned 108, if you can believe that. And the family was trying to get her services from the VA, and they denied her because of her income. But we reminded the VA in 2023 that they announced that all World War II veterans are now eligible for no-cost VA healthcare. And then they said, well, she didn't fight in the war. And we said, you said all World War II veterans. And then they finally admitted her and gave her HHA. And we also were able to get her medals, which she hadn't received. And so almost 80 years after she earned them, she finally received them. And we're still working with the family, trying to get HHA bolstered because of the very delicate situation that we're addressing here. So that I'm closing this down, winding it down, I should say. I'm going to post put my email address in the chat. Please reach out to me if you'd like to be on our listserv for our quarterly Vet to Vet programs. We've covered everything from medical nexus letters to music as therapy to the Gold Star program and so much more. We've been doing them now for several years since I started doing these hybrid, and we'd love to have you join us. I think that is it. The last thing I just want to close with, as far as brain injuries and TBI, there was a program here in New York led by Mount Sinai to try to learn more about TBI. So they're looking for volunteers, and it's called the Mount Sinai Brain Injury Research Center. So just put that on your radar if you do encounter anybody that has a traumatic brain injury that would be interested in adding to the science. That would be the way to go. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Great Panthers. I've known about you for a long time, so I cannot tell you how pleased I am to finally engage with you and join you today. And I wish you all a very happy and thoughtful Veterans Day. And I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ashton. This has been great. There's just so much information to share with everybody. Let's start with Lisa. If you want to unmute yourself, you could ask your question.
Yeah, I was a volunteer at our local VA hospital for 8 years in the community living center. And my question is, because some of the veterans there were not did not serve during a time of war, the service periods for what they considered war. But they, served, and I'm now a geriatric social worker, and I have a client that did serve during a time of war and needs a place like that, but yet they won't take him. So how does one get into a community living center if they need that kind of help?
That is a real challenge. And those who did not serve in war, the best answer for that from me asking the same question is to get a service-connected rating. If there are any injuries that that veteran sustained physically or mental, that can at least get them documented and get them into the door at the VA for care, that can expand into other benefits.
Right.
And
He
there
does,
are some
he does,
programs that are available for veterans, whether they served in combat or not. I would encourage you, you're in New York?
no, we're in Michigan and he does get his health care through the VA. And he
Good.
does have a disability rating for hearing. But now
Okay.
now that dementia is starting, and I have written letters and letters to the doctors, and I'm just at my wit's end.
There's also a non-service connected pension, which is for low-income veterans.
He gets
I don't know if
that.
he gets that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I would encourage the one door that might not have been opened is reaching out to the state veteran. Sometimes they call them the Department of Veteran Services. Sometimes they
Right,
call them the Department of Veteran Affairs. Have you
right.
reached out to them as well?
No, no. Right now he's getting that, what do you call it? The HHA 16 hours a week, but he really does need more. So we're just keep communicating with his primary care at the VA and we'll see what happens, I guess.
Okay, I'm gonna put the Michigan Department of Veteran Services link in the chat. I'd reach out to them because
Thank
our
you.
state Department of Veteran Services is awesome. And they have their finger on the pulse of all things veteran, whether it's housing or aid in attendance might be something to also inquire about.
Right.
I know that when a veteran is eligible for the non-service connected pension, which is essentially a low income pension, they are eligible for aid in attendance. And that is a pretty hefty financial contribution to go towards home health care. So that
Right.
might be something else that could be helpful in this situation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, hi. Actually, before I start, for people who don't know who I am, Carrie, could you just do a 2 sentence of who I am? Who are on the
Yeah, sorry, it's Jack Kupferman. He is with us on Great Panthers New York. You get to tell him your title, Jack, because I'm gonna get it wrong.
Chief Catalyst Officer?
There you go. And so Jack is part of us. He's been with Great Panthers for as long as Great Panthers New York has been around, I believe.
Well, no, only 20 years.
Okay, only 20. So go ahead, Jack.
It's a very long time.
So I wanted to reflect on my experience with the VA and services. While I have not had direct advocacy roles with regard to veterans, the VA has always been underappreciated because the range of services, not only in terms of personal services, whether it be medical research or anything, the VA is always awesome and never, it's always too often disrespected. Now, the specific thing that we have not discussed is legal services for vets. That when I'd been working at the New York City Department for the Aging, I was overseeing the legal services programs that DFTA funds. One of the things that was that I saw is that when there was no effective outreach to veterans who have legal service issues. And when the vets would, even when they came in for assessments and for representation, they were generally not compliant, meaning that maybe they'd show up for one interview and then never be heard of again. This is an ongoing problem with regard to the vets. And much of this, I believe, will come from the PTSD or other type of mental health issues. That's why vets, you'll see them on the street, which compounds all of their legal problems. And I would encourage, or let me find out whether there is some sort of initiatives within the VA or from your services to provide this type of information to every legal service providers, because they need to reach out to vets and it's hard to reach them. So that's my comment.
You are not wrong, Jack. And I too am grateful for the VA, and they have such a broad spectrum of services and support that they offer. It makes it challenging sometimes and perhaps frustrating for people when there's a change of staff or when there's a break in the continuity of care, which happens. But they've made great strides on trying to be on top of things, and especially care for veterans.
Right.
The legal aspect of things, you're not wrong about that. Sometimes these appointments are made and they can't honor them for whatever reason. There are pro bono legal services available in the city. There's NILAG, which I've used for housing issues. There's Volunteers of Legal Service, which I've used for preparing advance directives. There's a Veteran Advocacy Project, which are specializing in discharge upgrades. There's treatment courts to help veterans when they are having to go to court for whatever reason. They can help intervene and work with a veteran on getting things situated in a better way. But as far as not following up with their appointments, you know, and the issue of homelessness, yes, these are realities and things that we just have to be aware of, and just work with a trauma-informed, individualized care is the best thing that we can do, and just try to support those individuals who have these challenges as best we can.
And one of the things that I had been doing with the legal service providers that we oversaw is encourage them to do outreach specifically for vets. Specifically. And that by itself is a very difficult process to identify them and have them feel comfortable in accepting services.
So true.
And
Yeah.
and they don't even realize that they need legal services.
We are hopeful that this pocket guard is going to change that to some sort of extent. It remains to be seen. The effort was there, but as far as clinicians are concerned, that is the best path to connecting to those that aren't aware, that have served, that are unaware of the support available to them. And it's 7 questions, and it is like you saw the study, it's like less than 3%
Right.
of public and private providers are asking the right questions, which is pretty bad, you know. So it's not going to take much to improve that. And we're hopeful that this tool will not only inspire clinicians to learn more about what is available themselves, but the beauty about this resource is after the appointment is over, they hand it to the individual. So that way they can take it with them and they can explore these resources on their own. Because sometimes when somebody says, yes, I did serve, but I don't want to talk about it. Fine, here's the resource. Here's the information. You can look it up when you're in a comfortable place. Just knowing about it is hopefully going to lead them into self-advocacy, or reaching out to the person that will answer the phone and help them and be present.
And things like our Transformation Tuesdays, the more we can educate others, you know, an hour at a time, even when it's 40 people, you know, 40 people today learn something, which makes a huge difference. It's why we do what we do every month. It's why great Panthers takes pride in that we're been doing this for 5 years. And if every month, if we can teach one person something, we are making a difference. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? So in November, Amy Paul is gonna join us and we're gonna discuss legacy wills. And it's a different type of will. It's leaving your legacy, leaving your story, leaving your memories for others. And certain cultures do it. The Jewish religion has some that are done that way. And we're going to try to help people learn how to leave their legacy for others that are important. I thank you guys for joining us. Emily, our taskmaster and webinar superhero, we'll get this all recorded and made nice and pretty and send it out as soon as she can. And you know, if anyone has any questions or comments, please just email us. We're happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashton.
Thanks, Ashton.
You're welcome. You bet. Take care.